The Second Amendment of the United States Constitution reads, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Gunmen opened fire, and this is from Yahoo News. It's a live update while we were all sleeping in the Midwest. A gunman opened fire from a hotel overlooking a country music concert in Las Vegas on a Sunday night, killing more than 50 people. And since I've woken up, that's risen to 55 and 400 injured. So killing more than 50 people and wounding more than 400 others in the deadliest shooting in modern U.S. history. Notice how the shootings keep there's, do you see a direct correlation? Like, we just had a shooting in Orlando, and that was considered the biggest, and now we're here back months later, and we're not celebrating, but we're saying that we're having another modern day history event with the deadliest shooting. The suspect, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, killed himself before police breached his hotel room. So he did this essentially. Well, he didn't do it from the hotel room. I believe he did it from a place where he could strategically shoot and just spray people. And it was on the 32nd floor. I'm not 100% sure. I've heard reports. And Paddock killed himself before police could go into his room. And they're providing constant updates. So, what do they know about Stephen Paddock so far? Let's go ahead. Stephen Paddock, a 64-year-old man, is a man suspected of killing at least 58 people and injuring at least 515 people in the Las Vegas Sunday night, and this is the worst mass shooting. According to police, the shooter opened fire from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino at a large crowd of more than 20,000 concert goers across the street attending the final night of the Route 91 Harvest Music Festival. Witness described the shooting as non-stop gunfire, which means he had a fully automatic assault rifle. So with the fully automatics, it's just you just spray, like. And according to reports, and this is not in this excerpt, he had a couple of fully automatic assault rifles in order to do that, which means he was able to pick up one gun, and when he was done with what do they call when your pack of bullets? I'm sorry, I don't know. But when you're done spraying, you can just picked up another one and just started spraying. Now this is like they said that he had like 8 of these. How was he able to do that? Like, how was he able to just go in there and just, I don't know. And then, so this means that he had a bunch of guns, right? And he went all the way up to the 32nd, like, really think about that. He went up, like, premeditated murder, all the way up to the 32nd floor, had like a bird's eye view of 20,000 people and just started spraying people. Like, that's intense. I thought about this in deep thought, and I was just like, that's all right. Non-stop gunfire, that's how people were describing it. Police responded to the scene Sunday night and breached the suspect's hotel room and found that the shooter, who they believed acted alone, had killed himself. Police said that more than 10 rifles were found in Paddock's room at Mandalay Bay, and they believe the shooter brought the weapons into the hotel on his own, and used a device similar to the hammer to smash the hotel room's windows. To smash the hotel's room windows between him and the crowd below. So that means, when you go into a hotel, sometimes that they have those really thick, almost like security-like windows, so that, they're thick. Like, it's like a couple of inches of glass between you and outside. And especially when you're on a 32nd, when you're on a couple of floors, like the floors go up like 50 floors. Like, these are tall buildings in Las Vegas. And so they're called pressurized windows, I believe, actually. And he had to shoot him out in order to do that. He had to shoot him out. There's no way he could have just, they don't, because they're pressurized, because you're up that high, the windows need to be, so. Police have been seeking questions to the suspect's girlfriend, 62, who appears to have lived with Paddock. They also interviewed his family already. The motive of the shooting remains unclear. Police said Paddock had no criminal history, save a minor citation, so officials have no prior knowledge about the suspect. ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack, but officials have not uncovered any connections between that and the terrorist organization. The FBI stated that there is no apparent tie to international terrorism. One senior officer told ABC perhaps ISIS is just trying to take credit, which they are. I mean, let's just be real. Somebody made a comment, and I don't really find funniness in any situation where people lose their lives to be like comical. Like if anybody close to me, like if it was somebody close to you, you would not want memes or funniness or cracking up or anything like that to be associated with your family members or your friends or close friends. So I mean, we have been so desensitized to think death is just like this thing that happens because it happens. Now that we have social media as a tool to see death every single day, we are so desensitized when somebody dies, and we look at it as a joke and a coping mechanism, which is people with PTSD tend to do. Like, and I want to do a video on societal PTSD because I feel like I don't want to say the desensitization, but desensitizing people to see death every single day so that they kind of like almost get used to it. And it's not in front of you. You don't see people dying in front of you. You don't see people getting killed in front of you, like per your view, but like you see it on your phone, you see it on your TV, you see it, you know, through word of mouth or hear it through word of mouth. And it's just like, you know, that's not normal. That's not normal for humans to go through. All right, so I'm gonna go to the comment section. All right. So one person says that this is definitely terrorism. He killed more than 50 people. More than 50 people. That's terrorism. I would say the definition of terrorism is when somebody feels terrorized. Like, that's it. There's no, like, you know, there's no ambiguity with that. Like, when somebody is feeling terrorized, that is terrorism. So if one person is feeling terrorized and, you know, you walk into my space and you terrorize me, I feel like that's terrorism. I mean, that's just how I am thinking about it. Another person is saying, you know, this is domestic terrorism. Now, I want to go to the media. So the media refuses to label white men as terrorists. They rather call them lone wolves, and just he was alone. He did this alone. He had no help. He was mentally disturbed. He was lonely. He was emotionally unequipped. There's so like several languages that they, or vernaculars or words that they use in order to distinguish or to differentiate like brown people from white people in terms of mass shootings, killings, things like that. But I feel like we need to start grouping these things together. It's killings, it's terrorism, terrorism is terrorism, and it doesn't matter who it's coming from, rather it be somebody with white skin or black skin. We know that. We know that, right? But we have to start doing a couple of things. The first thing is we have to start holding the media accountable for how the languages that they use in order to differentiate white Americans from brown Americans in relation to domestic terrorism. If you're white, that doesn't give you even in death the privilege to be called a white lone wolf. And even if you are a brown person who acts alone, you're considered a predator. You're considered a savage. You're considered a part of a collective. And they do that to make people feel like that when one does it, everybody does it. So if tomorrow something happens in relations to Muslims or black people, then we as a collective will feel that pang, because now everybody is, the spotlight is on us and everybody is looking at us as holding accountability for what that one person does. So in relation to that, when you start attaching words like lone wolf emotionally unstable man, singular, words in order to like identify somebody as, just like a lone wolf or a single white male doing this one thing, isolated incident. It's not an isolated incident. White men are at the top of the percentile when it comes to serial killers and mass shootings. Like, that's just a known fact. And if we use them as a collective, then they are a collective. And they did this thing. They, them, not one, him. You know what I'm saying? Associated Press jumped on Twitter and started saying, ISIS is claiming a responsibility for this. I would say to them, shut the fuck up, right? So like, if everybody starts, copycat killers, you see this in sociology and psychology, like to claim, they're something is psychologically wrong with ISIS and the people who associate themselves with that, right? That could be said for the same thing for copycat killers. When they see somebody doing something, they kill some, serial killer or whomever, they kill a bunch of people, and that enthralls them, that makes them excited. They want to take accountability for that, and they want to be known, they want to be famous, they want to be seen, and they want that to be a part of them and attached to them. So ISIS, even if they sent you something in there, and do your due diligence. You are a part of the press. You have a responsibility to the people, even though we know that you don't, that you consider you just want clicks and views, but you have a responsibility to the people to say right things, and you just immediately condoning this to ISIS is wrong. Even though if they take responsibility for it, you as a journalist should know to do your due diligence before you put things out there. But you see, the media wants this to be a thing. They want people to be afraid of brown people, or people who look like me, or people who look like Arabs, and they want people to be in fear. So like, that's their thing. That's what they do. I also saw the thing that scared me is that he walked into a room. He walked into a room and was able to look down at people, have 10 fully automatic assault rifles. 10, let me say it again, 10 fully automatic assault rifles, okay? Look down at people and kill them just because he felt like it. Maybe he was emotional, maybe he was emotionally unstable, maybe he said fuck the world, maybe he didn't want to go out alone, because that's, a lot of, if we look at the direct correlation between white men and serial killings and mass shootings, they're always going through something, and emotionally or psychologically, which means that they want other people to feel that hurt and pain because they're going through it. And that's completely wrong. And even in the Black community or other communities of POC, this happens. It's not like a thing that doesn't happen, because it's psychology. So psychology applies to all human beings. But we see this at higher rates with white men, and I feel that is because white men feel like they're supposed to have handouts when they're not. The world doesn't work like that. And so, you know what I mean? Like, we need to like dig a little bit deeper. Yes, it's psychology. Yes, it's emotional imbalance, but we need to dig a little bit deeper with that. The fact that this man was able to bring all of those guns into a public place, essentially, even though it's like a hotel or a building, it's a public place, and spray a bunch of people, try to enjoy themselves, trying to be happy, trying to enjoy music, and kill, the numbers keep growing is a problem. And so I call these people online social media NRA lobbyists, and that's because they go on these social media platforms and say guns don't kill people, people kill people. And while that might be true, a gun can't physically walk and stand up and say, I'm going to kill people today. In America's gun to violence rate is fucking staggering. It's high. And this cannot be disputed. This cannot be disputed. It's a thing. It's high, and it's a problem. And well, you might say other countries have violence too. Yes, they do. They absolutely do. If you look at other Western worlds, I follow all forms of tragedy and news stories because I just like to be informed about the world and not just my bubble here in America, which is slowly being popped every single day because, you know, America's becoming less and less safe. But, you know, in England, and, you know, people are not just open, they don't have open access to guns like we do here in the United States. You can go into Walmart and pick up a gun and have it be semi-automatic to fully automatic, which is like militia weapons. Those are guns used in the military to kill other people. Like, do you understand that? So there's a lot of knifings, acid attacks in the UK because they don't have open access to guns, right? And that's violence. But let me tell you something, and I don't condone violence in any form or fashion, but you cannot, as a single person, as a lone wolf, as they would call it, go into a space and kill a bunch of, you can try, but 50 people, you will be hard pressed. You got to be like a master swordsman to go into a space and kill 50, and the numbers keep growing, people with a knife or acid. So we have to start thinking a little bit wider in terms of the scope. Guns, semi-automatic guns, fully automatic guns period, kill people when they are in the hands of emotionally unstable people, and people who are, you know, prone to violence, people who are psychologically unbalanced. And we need to do something about this. And the NRA lobbyists go on these social media platforms and say guns don't kill people, people kill people, but people with guns kill people. Like, we have to stop thinking in these remedial terms. Like, you're an adult and you have a brain, you can think. There should be protests. There should be, you know, our president is obviously not going to do anything, you know, and our previous president, I would say, didn't really do anything either in relation to this when, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement kind of started. So there, you know, presidents have always been lobbied against these groups that would seek to keep guns, because guns are profit and death for profit is a thing. So it's not going to go anywhere immediately. But our laws are embedded in hate. Our laws are embedded in hate. Our amendments are embedded in hate. And it starts at the root. If you don't get to the root of the issue is never going to be reformulated. You can't reformulate something when you don't take the whole formula and go and write it down and try to, you can't do that. You can't. You have to take the whole thing. Sometimes you have to trash it and start over. And a lot of people who are embedded within these amendments and rights and laws that are for profit for them, they don't want to see that happen, because then they have to start over essentially. And it is greed, it is classism, racism, it's a lot of things. But we have to start holding these people accountable, and that's all I really wanted to say. So if you want to see, again, if you want to talk about a particular topic, please like, comment, and subscribe. I really want to send my condolences out. I cannot say that word, I'm so sorry, but to the people who lost their lives, and to people who were hurt, to people who were affected, and to people who in the society, we're looking at that. I even want to send condolences to you, because societal PTSD is a thing. We keep seeing death every single day. To the Muslims in Myanmar, to the Orlando shootings, to the children who lost their lives in Sandy Hook, to the genocide that is happening right now, and, you know, Myanmar. I just can't stop thinking about that. Some people were just buried alive very recently. violence is wrought. Violence is abundant, and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon. So I really want to send out, societal PTSD is a thing, and the more that you see it, the more that you become desensitized, and you think that that's supposed to be a regular occurrence, and that's a part of the media's fault for desensitizing people, but it's also the humanity's fault, because we're not really doing anything about it, and we're leaving it in the hands of our governments who really don't give a shit, because they are in the 1% and we are here at the bottom looking up. So that's all I have to say about it, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day and rest of your week, and expect the video hopefully sometime soon. Thank you. Bye.